Elon is exposed by firefighters for his own lies. He does all these interviews like he's standing in front of an apocalypse.
You can imagine 1,000 gallons per house, we couldn't do, right? So the amount of water we're flowing, there really is no water system that's going to keep that pace.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators. It's not about finger pointing. It's about answering the questions you and everybody wants answered.
That is kind of finger pointing. Gavin Newsom now blaming Elon Musk for spreading disinformation, and he is trying to point the finger at basically anybody but himself because he doesn't want any responsibility for wrecking California and subsequently his political future. But Gavin posted this on X, a direct attack at Elon. He said, Elon is exposed by firefighters for his own lies. And Elon posted this on his account. You can see made a live stream version where he went and talked to firefighters. But Newsom is doing a weird thing. We'll play that clip from Elon. But here is Newsom again. He's doing another interview and he's talking about speculators buying up property. And he's doing this little bob and weave. Like I don't know what he's doing, man. He's going through something over there. And one of the dumbest things I've seen from him in his office over these last few days, which is interesting because he's usually more shrewd than this, is the backdrop of the footage. He does all these interviews like he's standing in front of an apocalypse, which is his city burnt to the ground. And I don't know why he's doing this. You'd think about a better backdrop would be like people moving water, pallets of boxes of food, moving things around, firefight, bunch of activity in the background. You're like, look, we're working, we're building things. He's like, I'm just standing here in the charred rubble and remains of my state. Constantly. It's bizarre. And this is what Elon was sharing. Elon's actually talking to officials about what's happening there. Gavin, as far as we've seen, is doing podcasts with John, what's his face? And here is the clip that Elon shared.
So what about water availability? Was water availability, I understand that was not an issue in Malibu, is that correct?
Was it water?
Well, yeah.
So there was water. We have several reservoirs that casinos that we use a lot. Now, just an example, if we have one building burning, we could flow 1,000 gallons a minute on that one building with the hose lays that we put in to stop it. You can imagine 1,000 gallons per house, we couldn't do, right? So the amount of water we're flowing, there really is no water system that's going to keep that pace. So we have to bring in water tenders, which are these big tank water tanks that, 2,500, 3,000 gallon trucks, and they'll come in. And that's what we have to do to compensate. So they park out there, do it. DWP did a great job. They brought in big water trucks for us, and we use them as basically mobile hydrants.
All right.
Right. And then we have our own agency as well that has water tenders.
Okay. My understanding is that like along the, correct me if I'm wrong, in Malibu along the coast, there was no shortage of water. In the Palisades, there was a shortage of water at a certain point, or is that not accurate?
Well, we were flowing just an amount of water that the system couldn't overbear. That we're just overbearing just because of how much water these firefighters were utilizing.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Elon. Was there some giant reveal there or something? The firefighter himself just said, I think it was overbearing, right? Like, in other words, we were pulling too much water through the pipes. You can only pull through so much water through the pipes at a time, right? It's a volume thing. So if normally you go to one hydrant, you pull 1,000 gallons, whatever it is, a minute, an hour, whatever the number is, whatever the rate is, then you dump that onto one building that's on fire. You got to multiply that times 10,000 buildings. Are those pipes rated for 10,000 of those, or just kind of 2 or 3, maybe 5,000 gallons at a minute? So he's saying that it was overbearing. So we then sent other trucks there that are mobile fire stations, those big vehicles you see with the giant containers in the back that have a bunch of water or chemicals in them. They show up and they just dump that water out. Okay, so that's great. So he's explaining that the systems were over capacity, basically. There was too much demand and they couldn't deliver a solution there. So what was Elon lying about? There was a shortage of water? That never even really came up. So it wasn't answered, right? It was asked and unanswered. And he was explaining that the system was overburdened. So what is Elon lying about? I have no idea. Nothing, as far as we can tell. Gavin is the liar. Gavin's the one who is doing bizarre bizarre press briefings like this, where he's laughing about speculators buying up property and doing this wiggle dance, as Mario calls it. What's he doing? This like little, bob and weave kind of a thing. What's he doing? Here's Gavin Newsom.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
All right. So I don't know what that is. Got kind of a strange smirk to him, like he's going to stop the speculators or what? Here's another clip.
All of us want to know those answers, and I just don't want to wait. People are asking me. I want to know those facts. I want them objectively determined, and that the chips fall where they may. This is not about finger pointing.
You say what to people who insist that these independent investigations or calls for them? Are you passing the blame onto other people?
How could it be when we're doing an independent investigation and we just want the adjudication of the facts? As I say, it's not about finger pointing. It's about answering the questions you and everybody wants answered.
That is kind of finger pointing, right? It's not about finger pointing. It's about we're going to do the investigation, and we're going to do the investigation so the fingers don't point back at me. Okay, no. We're not finger pointing. It's independent. And what is it going to find? Everybody else did something wrong except Gavin Newsom.
And I think there's a propensity to wait to answer those questions, and people want immediacy. They want response and responsiveness.
Because their house got burned down.
Ultimately here, does the buck stop with you?
I mean, you're governor of California. You might as well be the mayor of California. We're all in this together. We're all better off. We're all better off. We're all better off. And we're working together to take care of people and to make sure people are supported. We're empathetic, and we're here not just in the immediacy of the crisis, but we're here after the crisis, as opposed to creating a crisis in the middle of this by trying to divide people and take cheap political shots.
Yeah. Weren't you guys hardening up California to oppose Trump? Weren't you spending money and reorienting your whole state to fight Trump and to stop the incoming administration that was going to deport all your illegal aliens from you? Weren't you bracing for the Trump impact? Well, Gavin is one person who can talk and say a ton of things without saying anything. It's actually pretty impressive when you hear him. He says the same thing 5 or 6 times. Most politicians will say it, 2 or 3 times. They'll say, look, we've been here before, we're here now, and we're going to be here in the future. And you go, wow, he's just said a bunch of things, and he really said nothing other than we're going to be here, where we're here, and we're going to be here in the future. And Gavin Newsom does that, and he adds like a couple elements. And he's like, and in the future, beyond the future, we're going to be there too, just like we were there in the past before the past. And so that's 5 reasons we're here for you, California, and we're with empathy too. And he says constantly, what the hell did he just say? No one knows. But he talks a lot. Now, here is JD Vance, who's a much more succinct communicator, explaining there was no water there. All right. So stop blaming Elon for lying about your corrupt, collapsing state and do something useful.
We have to do a better job. We need competent, good governance. Now, that doesn't mean you can't criticize the governor of California for, I think, some very bad decisions over a very long period of time. I mean, some of these reservoirs have been dry for 15, 20 years. The fire hydrants are being reported as going dry while the firefighters are trying to put out these fires. There is a serious lack of competent governance in California, and I think it's part of the reason why these fires have gotten so bad. We need to do a better job at both the state and federal level.
And they're going to help do that when they come into power soon enough. Now, Trump has responded to this, says the fires are still raging in LA. The incompetent politicians have no idea how to put them out. Thousands of magnificent houses are gone. Many more will soon be lost. There's death all over the place. I think the numbers are up to 24,000 or 24 dead and hundreds of thousands displaced. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the history of our country. They just can't put out the fires. What's wrong with them?